Hi everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and today I'm here with the design team post for Scrapping for Less. I am here with the August 2020 Flavor of the Month card kit reveal. The theme is Bubbles Galore, and this kit is adorable. So you will see pictures, there's the ingredient sheet. You're going to see images of the card sketches that go along with it that you can download off the website, as well as what is part of these collections. Now there's two different types. You have the double dip and the banana split levels, so there's two different levels. And in the banana split level you also receive some extra goodies. Bubbles dies by Scrapping for Less and Craftaholic Mama Designs. Bubbly background stencil by Scrapping for Less, as adhesive foam strips by Scrapbook Adhesives, and sequins by Scrapping for Less. So that is what is included on top of everything that's part of the double dip for the banana split level. Now the first card I'm making is actually the sneak peek, and that is a bridge card. So I started out by stamping the image that I wanted to use as part of this, and I'm going to use some Distress Oxides just for the bottom strips on the card. The color Distress Oxide inks I'm using are Vintage Photo, Frayed Burlap, and Antique Linen. And that's what I'm going to use to kind of make the sand or the bottom of the sea or whatever that this is a picture of. And those pieces, I will kind of get into all of the size pieces. I'm just going to color up these pieces now as we get into it. But those pieces are 1 inch by 2 3/4 and 1 inch by 5.5 inches. And that's what I'm coloring there with the Distress Oxides. And that 5.5 inch one is what's going to go across the bottom of the card. That kind of creates that bridge that's going to kind of hold the card together. Now I just showed you the colors I used for the coloring. I did not leave the coloring in here. One, this is a really long video anyway, but there's nothing all that special with the coloring that I did. One thing I did do after I had to fussy cut this out was I etched the entire sides, all of the edges of the stamp in black marker, because I just think that helps it to look a little more finished. And if there's any mistakes or things that aren't quite cut exactly perfect, it's going to cover those up. Now to make this card, you're going to start out with a 4 1/4 by 8 inch piece of cardstock, and that's going to be your card base. You are going to score it at 1 1/4 inches, 2 1/2 inches. Now you can either flip it around and do the same thing on the other side, or you can continue scoring along at 5 1/2 inches and then 6 3/4. Then you're going to kind of make your folds, and you're going to start out with a mountain fold, and then a valley fold, and then a mountain fold, and a valley fold. And that is your card base. So the card base itself is pretty simple. A bridge card is very easy to make. It's a great fun fold, and there's so many different options that you have with it. Like this one, I put some acetate on the front of it to kind of give it the look of a fishbowl, because I wanted it to have that kind of glassy covering over where the fish was hanging out. You could put strips on the bottom and add more things to it, like behind the strip that holds it together on the very bottom, and then that would allow for you to add other things that'll kind of pop up. Now the pieces that you're going to use for the center, you're going to use a piece that's 2 3/4 inches. Now I cut this at 4 inches, and then I did the other one at 2 3/4 by 1 inch. So that's going to create the entire size that I need, and that will give you the 5 inches that you need to go through and have that on there. Then you're going to need 4 pieces that are 1 inch by 4 inches, and those are for all of the sides. And that on that end, that's about it for that. Now the other piece, the top piece that I used to put this card together, was about 3/4 of an inch by 5.5 inch. So I'm just going to piece the card together. I cut off certain sides of it to where I knew it was going to be covered, and I wasn't really too worried about it, and I wanted it to fit in there. So when you adhere this bottom piece, you're going to want to just put the tape on the very edges, close one side of it, add the bridge piece in there, and then push down the other side of the adhesive. So one side is going to be folded and one side will be laid out flat. And that's how you're going to get the 5.5 inches to fit in this card. And then as it opens and closes from side to side, it will be held together by the piece there. So you see how I closed it and then I just lay it over and pop it down on that other side. And then it'll just flip back and forth. Now the piece of acetate that I used is 2 3/4, and it's a little over 3.5 inches. I wanted to make sure, it doesn't have to be exact, you just need to make sure that it's going to fit between the bottom piece and the top piece that you lay down there. Now the top piece, like I said, is about 3/4 of an inch by the 5.5 inches, and you do that the same way. You fold over one side and then lay it down flat, and then just flip it over, or push it over and flatten it down for that adhesive on there. Now you do want to make sure you don't get adhesive on everything else, so you want to make sure that it's only on the areas where you need it. And for the acetate, I just used some double-sided adhesive, put it on the edge of that, and then just adhered it to the pieces that went over. The rest of this is just decorating, and you can decorate however you want. And like I said, at the bottom in the center, if you cut a strip about 1/2 inch by 3 3/4, let me say 2 3/4, 3 3/4, yeah, 3 3/4, and then score at 1/2 inch on each side, you can tape that into the bottom. So then you can add additional things. Now if you do that, I would make sure that you don't finish the front, don't add the acetate if you're going to do something like that, so that you can actually get in there. But like if there were other things I wanted to add in here for decorations, I could have the sentiment kind of floating on the inside of the card, which I actually thought about, and the reason why I didn't do it is because the fish and the birthday cake were kind of right smack dab in the middle, and if I had anything floating in front of it, you really wouldn't see it as well. So that's why I kind of decided against that. Now the next card I'm making, I'm using sketch number 4 for it, and I used collection number 2. Collection number 2 includes Country Bubbles paper by Scrapping for Less, Blowing Bubbles stamp set by Scrapping for Less and Tawny Owl Papery, Pink Organza ribbon by PH Panda Hal, Enamel Dots by Gina Marie Designs. And for this, I'm really just following the sketch, and I ended up just using the 6-inch piece of pattern paper, and when I cut the side off, the 2 inches that were left when I cut the 4 inches down for that background panel, that's what I ended up using for just the opposite side of it for this. Now I had a lot of trouble tying this bow for some reason. I could not get it to tighten up without pulling it too short. I don't know what I was doing, but I did finally get it, so it worked out. And I did end up using a die, an oval die from Spellbinders, to just cut out in white, and then I edged it with some pink Distress Oxide. Actually, it's worn lipstick that I just edged it. I used the bubblegum stamp, and then the sentiments I cut apart that said, "I choose you." I did end up coloring the bubblegum pack in a light pink, and I'm sorry I didn't grab the number off of that, but it was just a very light, I know it's an RV that I used to just color the pack with it. And then to finish off this card, I took some of the ephemera. They're bubbles that match that paper, and I popped those up. And I also popped up the oval to give that some dimension, and then some of the ephemera I even stuck onto the oval, so it really popped it up and gave it a lot of dimension on this card. And like I said, then I just popped on that whole panel onto the card base, and that pretty much finishes up this card here. I decided just to use a white card base with this card as part of the double dip ingredients, so no matter which kit you get 6 pieces of cards, high quality 100-pound cardstock, and 2 sheets of accent opaque white 100-pound cardstock, and then 4 A2 size envelopes. And I used the white to make the card base, and then I just popped that on there. And like I said, then I'm going to use all of the different foam tape. I used some foam tape on that, and then I used the dots on the ephemera to pop those up. And I thought this was really cute where it says I choose you, and then it has the bubble gum pack there. That makes me laugh. I like when they have puns and stuff like that with different things. So like I said, that is it for this card. Moving on to the next card, I will be making sketch number 2. And to make this card, what I did was I cut about a little less than an inch strips from the pattern papers that I wanted to use. I picked 3 different pattern papers, and I just cut out with the smallest circle die that I had 5 of each, right? 5 of each, except for the light blue. I think there was only, oh no, that's 5. Okay, 6 of the pink, and then 5 of the 2 blues that I chose. And then I just kind of marked in the center of the card. This is a 5-inch square card, and I just marked right in the center of it, and then I kind of placed the die cut circles around that center mark, and that's kind of how I lined it up. And then I just went from there, adding all of the different circles and just kind of creating a pattern of colors as I went along. But I did start in that center, and then I just worked my way all around. Then I took a piece of the pattern paper, and I took the sentiment stamp from collection number 3. It's called Sea Wishes. And I cut that apart so that I could make it long to go across the banner that I'm going to put there. And I cut that banner out at about an inch, and I just left it the length of the 6 inches because I decided I would cut it afterwards. And I put it all the way to one side so that I could pop that side on the left side of the card, and then I will cut it down and fishtail the edge of it afterwards. I did decide, since I didn't want to mess this up, to get my Misty just to pop it in there, make sure that it stayed where it was supposed to stay. So I ended up cutting it down, and a lot of this I think just depends on how you would cut your stamp or what size sentiment you have. So this is a pretty long one. Now I made it so that it went into the middle of 2 of the rows of circles, so that it didn't completely cover any of the rows, because that banner is actually larger than the circles that I cut. And then I am going to take those off. I do finish this off with a couple enamel dots that were part of the collection. This collection, like I said, is collection number 3. You get Sea Wishes paper by Scrapping for Less, Make a Wish stamp set by Scrapping for Less. That's the same one I used on the Bridgefold card. Pink and White Twine by Casper, and then Enamel Dots by Gina Marie. My next one is going to be sketch number 3, and I am using collection number 4, which is Bubbles Galore paper by Scrapping for Less, Tiny Bubbles stamp by Scrapping for Less, the Sentiment ephemera by Scrapping for Less, Sequins by Scrapping for Less, and then Enamel Dots by Gina Marie Designs. That is everything that you will get in collection number 4. Now I decided on the paper that I wanted to use, and I kind of cut everything down, and I just followed this sketch. So I cut it about not even a full 1/4 of an inch, but this is a top folding A2 size card, so it's cut at 11 inches by 4 1/4. The square piece in the center is 4 1/4 inches. I didn't, like I said, even cut the strips that are going to go there, not even 1/4 of an inch. It's a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch. And then I cut out a heart with some Sizzix dies from some of the pattern paper, some of the solid that was on the back side that's solid, and I stamped the sentiment "Celebrate Today." I just kind of pieced this all together, and then I used one of the ephemera that says, "May all of your troubles be bubbles," and I thought that was cute. And then that's kind of a banner shape that it has on there. And then to finish off this card, I just put sequins all around the heart. I put the red sequins that were part of that, and then on the outside of the card I added 3 on the top and the bottom in opposite corners, and that is from the sequins that were part of that collection as well. And that will finish up this card. For my final card, I am using sketch number 1. It is collection number 1 that I'm using with this one, Bubbles in the Tub. And you get in it Bubbles in the Tub paper by Scrapping for Less, Bubbles in the Tub stamp by Scrapping for Less, white ribbon by Benacreate, and enamel dots by Gina Marie Designs. And I think this would be so cute for a baby card, but I just love these colors. I love the yellow and the turquoise together like that. So I chose my paper. I am using the sketch, and the only thing I changed from the sketch was I cut the square that's kind of in the center there down to 3 inches instead of 3 1/4 inches. And everything else I left as the 1 inch by, I actually did 4 inches, 1 inch by 4 inches, and then the background panel is 4 inches by 5 1/4, so it will give that border around the card. I am going to stamp and color and put the sentiment on that 3-inch square all at the same time. I used a yellow card base. This is just another A2 size card. And then I'm just going to piece it together according to the sketch. Those are the colors that I used to color the image. I again did not leave the coloring in here. I pieced everything together. I popped up that center square. And then I also cut out, I have a punch that's a scalloped circle, and I added another sentiment on there that says, "May you never outgrow bubbles." And on the top, on the 3-inch one, it says, "When all else fails, take a bubble bath." So I thought that was super cute. I added a couple enamel dots to the end of that. I added some Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen to the bubbles. And then I added some glossy accents to the ducks to kind of make them look like the rubber ducks that go with the bathtub theme there, and I thought that turned out really cute. So that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out the Flavor of the Month card kit over at Scrapping for Less, and make sure you subscribe to it. You can click on any of the links to get over to Scrapping for Less, and then right in the center it says card kits, and you will be able to pick that up. I hope everybody stays healthy, takes care. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.